WRK Jackson.
Hey, what do you say we sing a driving song?
There's not going to be any singing around here. Just
real sports.
On the Afternoon Drive with Jake Wimberly.
Oh, this is going to be sweet.
And it's all right here, right now on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
th day of May, 2024, Champ in the Chair Sports Maven, welcome in. It is time to get going as we're glad to be with you on a Tuesday. Hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. Salute to our troops and those that are active, those that are veterans, those that have become before you and will come after you. We appreciate your time in the U.S. military and, of course, great Memorial Day weekend. Hope you had a great time. As you move into a short week as we move through the week. 601-885-3776. You can always text us. Make your house a home today with Cowboy Maloney's. 13 locations around the state of Mississippi. Online at cowboymaloney's.com. And, of course, we're brought to you by Ameristar Casino. Get out and play all the college baseball you want. Futures, we'll get into some lines today on the College World Series as the brackets are set. You can make your plays. You got games, all kinds of stuff. You can do that through Penn Gaming and Ameristar Casino. So stay playing down at Central Mississippi's premier gaming destination, Ameristar Casino Hotel. 601-897-1059. That is the Malone Roofing caller line. ecmalone.com is the website. 8337-MALONE. Commercial, residential roofing done right with Malone Roofing Services. And you can hit us up on X. That is the Clinton Body Shop. X feed. At Jake Wim, 2 locations to serve you in Clinton and in Richland. OEM factory certified, all the manufacturers you trust at Clinton Body Shop. Glad to be back with you. I want to say thanks to everybody who helped us with the 2024 MHSA Baseball Championships last week. Always the longest week as far as our sports coverage at one event is concerned, but a great week nonetheless. So thanks to Adam Johnson and the MHSAA. Also thanks to Ricky Neves and everybody over at the MHSAA. Also thanks to all of our guys that jumped in there and really pulled the lion's share work from Breck Riley to Jared Schatz, Josh West, Brian Eubank, Chris Ebelhair, and Cliff Barker. I know I'm missing some. Will Kohlmeyer, a lot of guys that jumped in and really did a great job this past week bringing you coverage of the tournament. All right, today as we move forward, just kind of a schedule this week. I will likely not be here on Thursday due to a family deal we got it going on. I've actually got a young one who's got wisdom teeth coming out, so we got to make that happen on Thursday. I'll be here through Monday next week, and then I'm on vacation. I am headed out for a few days, and then once we get back, it's football as we move through the month of June. David Murray will join us at 3:45 today, genespage.com, 247sports.com, as we'll talk Mississippi State baseball and get into some of this SEC meetings out in Texas. Chris Landry, 4 to 4:30. As we move along, we'll talk NFL and college, and then Kelley Ford, K4 ratings, moving him back a little bit just because of the schedule this week, 5:30 to 6 o'clock. We'll talk college football as we move along. And I want to get into, obviously, if you've got comments or questions, is a Mississippi State fan still pissed off is what I want to know. My God. Look, and I'm saying this as a guy who's a state alum, been around that place my whole life. The whining and crying yesterday, pathetic. Absolutely pathetic out of State fans. And I'm just being honest with you. It's sickening to see, honestly. Oh, we didn't get to host. Oh, we don't get to cook our burgers out in left field lounge. Oh, shut up. That is ridiculous. Look, State fans can't see the forest for the trees. You're actually in a better situation going to Virginia and then possibly having to get on a plane and go to Arkansas to get to the College World Series. The end game is the College World Series. Instead, you wanted to host so bad so you can post pictures of your food in the left field lounge and your drinks on social media and talk about how great state baseball is and how great it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then go get dump trucked by Tony Vitello in Tennessee in round 2. I just don't get it. I really don't. The whining and crying out of State fans yesterday, I was baffled. I get it. You want to host, but you didn't do enough to host. And I know you can compare numbers to numbers. You can go by KPI and RPI, and look, half the people don't even understand mathematics enough to really go into, we got to better this and we got to better that. Look, you dropped games early. You dropped a game to Air Force to begin the season. You dropped 2 to Austin P. You go through this schedule. There's just way too many midweek losses for Mississippi State. Played really good down the stretch. Lost to South Alabama. Had a 2-1 win in extra innings against New Orleans. There was a game against LSU you shouldn't have dropped. There's way too much candy on the vine out there. And when you look at the way the committee did, and you look at the national seeds, State just wasn't going to host. Wasn't going to host. But as actually in a better situation than if you would have hosted. Much better. Because now it doesn't mean you're going to go to Virginia and win the regional, but you have a much better situation to win a regional on the road and then go play an Arkansas team that you feel pretty good about, that you match up about. Because, again, the end game is Omaha. I even saw several people on X, not that kind of drives, the whole world doesn't run through Twitter or X, but people that admitted said, well, I'm just not going to get to cook out and enjoy my regional baseball. Nobody cares about your cookout. What you should care about is the best situation for your baseball team to potentially get and continue that postseason baseball. I'm going to tell you, State fans need an award for the whiniest fan base in sports. And look, some of your ambassadors out there, they need to quit ambassadoring. It's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic yesterday. You should be proud of this baseball team, proud that you're in postseason, proud that you're in a position to where you can go play baseball and then extend that possibly next weekend to play Arkansas. All right, we'll get into this bracket. We'll get into the top seeds, and, of course, Vegas. If you go look at Vegas, you can go to ameristarcasino.com/Vicksburg and head over to the NCAA tab. And you can actually play the different regionals. For instance, you can go in and play Athens Regional, Georgia, -150, Georgia Tech +275, UNC Wilmington, this is just an example, 3.5 to 1, Army 35 to 1. So you can actually play each regional. If you go to the Knoxville Regional, congratulations to Southern Miss for making postseason ball. Now, obviously, they got a tall task ahead of them, but Tennessee is projected to win that regional. No, shocker, -335. Southern Miss with the second best odds at +375, followed by Indiana at +750, 7.5 to 1, and then Northern Kentucky at 60 to 1. So you can go through all of these regionals here, and you can do College World Series odds. For instance, if we go into Mississippi State's regional, Virginia is a slight favorite over Mississippi State, and I mean slight, +100. Mississippi State +105. So Vegas will tell you it's tit for tat. It's neck and neck. Next up, St. John's at 10 to 1, and Pennsylvania 25 to 1. And then if you go into the College World Series odds at Ameristar, Tennessee with the best odds at 5 to 1, tied with Texas A&M 5 to 1. Arkansas and then Kentucky, that kind of mirrors the national seeds. Arkansas 7.5 to 1, Kentucky 9 to 1, and then of course LSU 12 to 1. You can get Mississippi State, for instance, to win the whole thing at 45 to 1. Beeve, how in the world are you, sir? It's great to be back in the studio. You said it felt like 6 years. It's good to see your face. You've actually grown your beard back in a week. So how are you doing?
I'm good.
I've already let State fans have it while you were out.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. All that whining yesterday. What'd you think about all that?
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, of course, but you knew it was coming.
Why do Mississippi State fans feel so entitled in baseball?
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, look, you clearly you didn't even make your conference tournament previously.
Prior to this year.
Yeah, prior to this year. So it seems pretty simple, though. Like, stop with the math. Stop trying to figure it all out. Blaming selection committees, all this stuff. Like, perhaps you just should have won a little bit more. Perhaps you shouldn't have dropped, I don't know, a game to Central Arkansas, 2 games to Austin Peay. But the geniuses, though, which I am far from, whatever. I don't care about, I don't know about the selection committee. Every selection committee, though, we see this in basketball, we see it in football. Everyone's going to get mad over something. But, I don't know, maybe State just should have won a couple more games. Just watch your damn regional, this Virginia regional that you're going to get kicked out of on the first weekend.
Oh, come on.
And be pleased. You've taken a few steps forward here. You've been nothing for 2 years.
I would tend to agree with you. Is it the stadium? I mean, look, it's one thing to be a proud fan. And Mississippi State has a very proud baseball fan base. Is it the stadium? I mean, I saw somebody put out on X yesterday, I don't get to cook my burgers in left field.
Aww.
Is that what it's about?
Aww.
Posting on social media, Left Field Lounge, oh, we're here, we're in the house. Why are they so entitled in baseball?
We got a cool stadium. Well, we have a cool stadium. We should bump someone else.
We're brought to you by Bailey Lumber. BaileyLumber.com is the website. Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Special selections vary by store, limited to stock on hand. Lumber, drywall, doors, roofing, GAF, great GAF roofing specials. Everything you need for all of your construction projects located in Brandon, 2150 Mississippi Highway 471. That's BaileyLumber.com. David Murray coming up in 30 minutes.
And action!
We got that and a whole lot more around here. It's the Afternoon Drive with Jake Wimberly.
What's the score?
He's got that, along with the hottest sports stories of the day on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
We're brought to you by friends at Kubota. Go to KubotaUSA.com for more information. Great deals to be had, like Kubota tractors, zero-turn mowers, utility vehicles, and more. KubotaUSA.com. We're also brought to you by Ameristar Casino. Get out and play today. All right, let's see. Real unnamed texter, you can text us 601-885-3776. Says, even Angel Hernandez could see that these selections were trash. Yeah, but were they? Every year we do this. Oh, the selections are trash. The committee's trash. Have you ever seen college football winner? We're going to get it with the 12 team. You're right, this year. Somebody's going to get screwed, at least in their minds, because it ain't going to work the way everybody thinks it's going to work. I'm telling you, there's going to be some 10-2s, some 9-3s to get left out on that 11-12 spot, and then we're going to see the same thing. Have we ever had a situation in basketball, baseball, and now coming up football to where everybody went, committee did a fantastic job?
No, that's what I was saying. Every selection committee in every sport, someone's going to get all mad. Then you're going to say, well, these selections are trash. Anyone could see that. Really? Do you see everything that goes on right under your nose? Because I know for a fact you don't, sir, real name texter. But just stop, man. You're back to a regional. Your team is good again. You were absolute, utter trash, and now your team is good again. Just take a little victory. You're kind of back.
Kind of.
And look, if you win the regional this weekend, does the stupid trash talk continue? No, you don't care. You've won. You're moving on. So it's not going to matter if you win.
What do you mean it's not going to matter?
I'm talking about the fact that you're not hosting. If you win this regional, though, go to Virginia, win the regional, then it doesn't matter anymore. Oh, we didn't host last weekend.
So you can't see the forest for the trees, not you. And there's a lot of State fans that can. Would you rather host and have been matched up to go play Tennessee in their backyard, especially after all the vitriol that happened between State and Tennessee at the SEC tournament this past weekend, and then knowing that the odds of you getting flat embarrassed, because I can promise you, if State would have been hosted and won and went to Tennessee, Tennessee would have set out to embarrass State. Or go play a regional in Virginia where Vegas has you as a slight underdog by pennies on the dollar, plus 100 to plus 105 for Virginia. If State takes care of business, and if their players and coaches don't listen to their fan base and they go play baseball, they can probably go win that. And then go match up against an Arkansas team in a place you've already went and played very well at. Is it to Tennessee or is it to Arkansas? But I don't know that some State fans care. They care more about going to Starkville, putting a hamburger on a grill, mixing a drink, posting a picture on social going, greatest baseball stadium in the world, in 9 worlds. And then they don't care that they go to Tennessee and get dump trucked. I thought the goal was Omaha, not to post pictures of your hamburgers at Left Field Lounge. What is the goal?
Well, goals have changed these days. When social media gets involved, when there's a picture at stake.
Got to have a picture. Resdog, fire Lamonis. See, he's still on it. He is still on it. Hey, toughest regional by average power ratings of non-host. The Tucson regional, number 1. Toughest regional, Tallahassee 2, Clemson 3. Santa Barbara 4, Greenville 5, Corvallis 6, Lexington 7, Athens 8, Norman 9, Raleigh 10, Knoxville, Stillwater 11, Knoxville 12, Fayetteville 13, Charlottesville 14, Chapel Hill 15, and then College Station. So, State's in a regional that's power rated very low. You would think they would be happy. No. They don't get to post pictures of their hamburgers and whiskey drinks on social. If you look at this Friday starters on X, they do a really good job of breaking this whole regional down. You can go see that. Again, State's, literally, it should be State and Virginia. It should be State and Virginia. That's who it should be all the way through this. Rest in peace to Bill Walton. Did you know Bill played a high school basketball game against this guy? Did he tell you this story?
No.
That's what he said. When he was in San Diego, Wild Bill grew up in San Diego. Now, he said he didn't actually play. I don't want to put that on him. Well, he started out and said he did, but then he said he was just the manager of the basketball team. But Bill Walton wore them out in high school. Had no idea who this guy was. Very interesting story. Also, let's see, Greg Sankey, Ross Dellinger, and several are out in Texas for the meetings here. Greg Sankey has asked about collective bargaining with athletes, which he says would require employment. Sankey, quote, "I've not had a student athlete come to me and say, I want to be taxed like an employee." And I don't know that, and again, we continue to go down this road here after especially the court hearing from last week, which we were on the air with baseball, but a lot of that was happening. Sankey also speaking to a group in Destin, they're Destin, not Dallas. Destin, before SEC meetings begin Tuesday, says the SEC will hold conversations this week about the possible implementation. Well, they're in Destin last week, Dallas this week. Implementation of college athletes' availability reports leading into the games. This is basically an injury report. So they're talking about having an injury report like the NFL in college football. Do you like that or do you not like that?
I tend to not like it simply because it's catered. It seems almost catered more towards the gambling community.
Aha.
We better have an injury report out there so that the people who have sold their soul to the casinos,
what do you mean?
Can know. Both fingers pointed at Jake right now.
Hey.
Can know who's injured and could change the outcome of the game.
I haven't thought about this, but I think you could be spot on. Why is nobody talking about this?
I don't know.
But I think you may be onto something. What good is an injury report in the NFL? Do they really care that your fans know if your starting running back is playing or not, just so they know?
Well,
no, it's about gaming. You're right.
Yeah.
And now fantasy football.
But now, to be fair, though, it's not 100%. Like, if you're a hardcore fan, you'd like to know if you're a Cowboys fan, you'd like to know that Dak Prescott isn't playing on Sunday. So, yeah, you do have people who like to know the ins and the outs. I like to know those things, but I feel like this is just, in the world we live in today, with the gambling much more prevalent, I feel like that's part of this, at least. I don't want to say it's all there. And I would prefer to not think that it's all on gambling, but I think that plays a part in this.
I think you're right. There is a segmentation of that. Res Dog, we know two people that won't be invited to any left field lounge parties next year. Oh, Res Dog. State fans, they're fine. They cry and they get back to normal. It's fine.
Yeah. And plus, it is not meant for me to ever go to Duty Noble because I've never been there. And for 2 years straight, last year, Matt Wyatt empty promised me that we were going. This year, Jared Schatz empty promised me that we were going.
Now, you keep saying all these people empty promise
Correct,
you.
yep.
But some of that may be true, but how much of that is you just not wanting to do it?
When I say it to you, to your face, and you tell me to the face, and we're having a conversation, it's me saying, crap, yeah, let's do this.
Fair enough. And as we get ready to go to break, Jason and Flagstaff, we State fans, particularly on message boards and social media, are some of the biggest crybabies on the planet. After every loss to a bad team or blown lead in the ninth inning this year, the Fire Lamonas, I think he says, quotes Fire Lamonas perked up, but now not hosting is a conspiracy against State or something. Exactly. You can't want to fire Lamonas for half the year. And now it's a conspiracy theory to keep State down.
Notice they've blamed everybody but Will Rogers this time.
Oh, yes. They need to be blaming Will Rogers for that. Hey, we're brought to you by Ameristar Casino. Get out and play today. We're also brought to you by Mac Hike in Madison, Gluckstadt. Get that great Mac Hike feeling. Madison, Gluckstadt, new and used inventory. And, of course, enjoy online or on-site. That's MacHikeMadison.com. David Murray coming up in 15 minutes.
Turning to sports.
With Jake Wimberly on the afternoon drive.
One of the last pure pleasures I have left in my life.
Yeah, maybe you ought to get a life first, okay? On ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
We're brought to you by Williams Newman Williams. When you need a win, car wreck, truck accident, nursing home neglect, online at WNWlegal.com. That's WNWlegal.com. David Murray in the next segment. Chris Landry, top of the hour. We move forward. Kelley Ford, 5:30 to 6. We're streaming on the Zone1059.com. All right, let's see here. In a letter to schools and obtained by Yahoo Sports, NCAA President Charlie Baker details concepts of settlement terms in which have been previously reported. He estimates, as reported, the athletes are expected to receive $1 to $1.5 billion from powerful revenue sharing per year. And there's more to get into this as we move along. I want to get into this later. A funny story, but almost kind of sad. That's where we got to. A high school soccer announcer in Kansas, high school soccer, gets caught on a hot mic saying the bonus for him calling these games is the hot moms, and he got fired for saying that. Should he have gotten fired for saying on a hot mic, I love these games, but I love also checking out the hot moms in the stands out here?
No. I mean, it's a mixture of creepy and funny, but it leans harder towards funny, I think. No, he shouldn't have been fired.
Yeah, that's very weird. Let's see here. Let me go back down here. Rebel Greg. What team is more likely to have a chip on their shoulder? State going to Virginia or Ole Miss going into the fall this season? That's a great question. So is it State baseball? Well, let me just put it like this. Is it State baseball fans or Ole Miss football fans, particularly this year, Beaver? Who has the biggest chip on their shoulder?
The chip. I don't know that I would really say Ole Miss has. I hate to even use this phrase. I've told you how I feel about this phrase. That was my number one when we were doing that list, but chip on the shoulder. I don't think Ole Miss really has a chip going into football because they were really good last year and they're expected to be really good. Everyone has huge expectations for them. It's not like they're talking trash about them.
Until somebody doesn't put them in their preseason playoff or something to that effect. Somebody on a national level or even local for that radio or whatever says, "Oh no, this team is way overrated. They're 7-5." Then the chip in the shoulder happens, right? That's when it happens. Monkeys Riding Dogs, your Costa Rica buddy, claims he has insider information on injuries. Eggplant. Has he done that?
Of course he has.
Okay.
All the time.
Philip. It's Philip. That was a good one, Beaver. They forgot to blame Will Rogers. That is 100% true. And Joel. Jake, I don't know why the state fans are complaining about not hosting a regional in this weekend's opening round of the NCAA tournament. At least they get to continue to play while we sit out once again. So they just need to shut up and be happy that they will lose the Virginia Regional, #Hotty Toddy, and GTH MSU. I think state wins the Virginia Regional. I have state. I would play money that state wins the Virginia Regional because I don't think the state baseball team is nearly as fragile as the fan base. Is that fair? Mm-hmm. I think the state baseball team is way more put together than the fan base is. And I like state, them against the world, going on the road to Virginia, and it may take them to dang near Monday. They may have to lose a game, beat Virginia twice. They may not. But I have state actually advancing to the super regional round and playing Arkansas. Now, here's the thing, though. Let me go over here and look at this. Here's where, again, state fans can't see the forest from the trees. Arkansas, very, very good baseball team. And if you go over here and you look, though, they pitch it really well. They've had some problems at the plate. What if Kansas State goes in there and wins that regional as a 3 seed? Because Louisiana Tech's got a 2 seed. That's a nice baseball team. But 2-3, 2-3, 2-3, 3-2, 3-2, 3-2, they're all the same. So if Kansas State, for instance, out of the Big 12 goes in there and beats them, then guess what? Oh, wait a minute. State hosts the super regional. That very well could happen. So, and when you look at so have you picked your off the beating path team that we're going to cheer for this year?
No, I didn't. I thought about it yesterday as I was watching the selection show, and I didn't go back and look into the whole list of teams.
Well, let's see. And it's got to be somebody worth cheering for, like Northern Kentucky in the Tennessee Regional, Knoxville Regional. And there's nobody in that East Carolina Regional that I would want to pull for. Let's see. Norman, nope. Tallahassee has Stetson. They're a 4 seed. They'll play Florida State out the gate. Arkansas, you've got SEMU, Southeast Missouri State in the Fayetteville Regional. Of course, Virginia Regional or Charlotte's Regional, you've got St. John and Penn. The Tucson Regional, you got Grand Canyon. They're in there. And you got Dallas Baptist. You might want to go with Dallas Baptist in that regional. Chapel Hill Regional. North Carolina, LSU looks like they found their sea legs late. Wofford and LIU. When you look at the Lexington Regional, Indiana State, Western Michigan, and Illinois. Kentucky looks like they ought to bulldoze that regional. Corvallis Regional, Oregon State, UC Irvine, Tulane, and Nichols. Raleigh Regional, NC State, South Carolina, James Madison, and Bryant. The Bryant Bulldogs. Beaver, where are they from? The Bryant Bulldogs. They're a 4 seed. Athens Regional, you got Georgia, UNCW, Army, and Georgia Tech. And Clemson Regional, you got High Point. Yeah, but they're a 4 seed. They're going to go in there and beat Clemson. You got Vanderbilt and Coastal Carolina. The Stillwater Regional, Oklahoma State, Nebraska, Florida, and Niagara. Santa Barbara Regional, UCSB, also San Diego, Fresno State, and Oregon. And then you've got College Station Regional, Texas, A&M, Texas, Louisiana, and Grambling. So you got some work to do, Beav, to pick who you may want to go with as a sleeper team. It may be as simple as Dallas Baptist. 601-885-3776. I'm just spitballing.
We've gone with them before. I don't want to go back with them.
All right, we can go with somebody else.
I think in 20 like 2019.
Probably was
somewhere around
2019.
there, we went with them.
So, Snoop Dogg and the Arizona Bowl, presented by Gin and Juice, that will happen this year. First bowl, though, will provide NIL deals for all players on both teams from Mountain West and the MAC. That's the MAC. So all the players are going to get NIL money coming off that. That's actually pretty genius. That gets those guys to play in that bowl game, I can tell you that. Also, Brett McMurphy reporting statement from Utah Athletics regarding rumors of Utah to the ACC. This kind of slipped under the radar with everything. Supposedly, there's some rumors of flirtation from the ACC back to Utah. Quote, we are proud to be entering a membership into the Big 12 Conference in the coming months and excited to join our new colleagues and member institutions. A report, of course, over the weekend suggested otherwise. A completely fabricated and irresponsible story. Texas A&M football coach Mike Elko on the outlook for the season, Beaver, he says, quote, we have the base to be really, really special. What does this mean? Really, really special. What's Elko's trying to say?
I don't know. What is any A&M coach? They're going to go in and do that. You should have had the base to be special. Oh, I don't know, the last, 5 years when you've been having these massive recruiting classes, and you haven't been able to get those. I'd say those players were considered special coming out of high school or the transfer portal, but they weren't special. You weren't special enough to do anything special with them. Let's say that. And I don't see that changing just with Elko.
We'll see. I'm not buying it.
I still go back to maybe A&M is not what they think they are, no matter who's their coach.
It's very possible. It's very, very possible. Hey, we're brought to you by Subway. 2 great locations over on the Reservoir, 317 Village Square near Shaggy's, also 626 Grants Ferry Road. Locally owned and operated, Subway here to help you with all your catering needs. Ask about platters of sandwiches and cookies. Get in for lunch or dinner. Eat fresh, eat local, make it what you want at Subway. David Murray coming up next.
It's time to get
Back in the game.
with Jake Wimberly and the Afternoon Drive.
That's entertainment.
On the station that specializes in the Mississippi sports you love.
Now we're talking.
Live and local on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
Taking you through a Tuesday. We're streaming on the zone1059.com. Brought to you by Maristar Casino. It is the Afternoon Drive. David Murray, kind enough to give us some time today. Gene's page, 247sports.com. Also on X, Facebook, and more. Get the podcast. David, happy Tuesday. I hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend, sir. How are you?
Well, it was even though the Bulldogs were not playing after Friday, you had 2 days there to say, will they, won't they? When the word comes out, no, they won't be hosting, then you have to write follow stories on that. And, of course, then yesterday, the site selection announcement, the tournament field, all those things. To process, a lot to take care of, and now time to throw some things together, pack up the bag, and head to Charlottesville, Virginia on Thursday to be there and ready for the start of the regional on Friday.
So, David, before we get to the regional, a lot to be made about the selection committee. I know a lot of disappointment about not hosting. I probably look at this a little differently. I said, hey, look, if you would have hosted, if you would have had the spot where East Carolina is, then congratulations, you're matched up with Tennessee, and I don't know that that's something that you want to be part of. In Virginia, if you look at Vegas, Vegas has Virginia a slight favorite at plus 105, State right behind them at plus 100. It looks to be way more of a manageable road regional. There, if you win, if Arkansas wins, you travel and play an Arkansas team you probably feel better about than Tennessee. But that's the way I look at it. How did you see it?
Well, similar. Now, let's make no bones about it. You're better off hosting. You're always better off hosting in the first round. Doesn't matter what it feeds into or not. And I don't think State would have been the number 16. I think they should have been number 15 overall. It didn't work out because of things. We can debate the committee makeup, and I vented at length on my podcast last night about, yes, I understand the NCAA and people in baseball want to, quote, grow the sport in other areas. To me, that doesn't mean propping up, say, the West Coast programs or others at the expense of programs that have earned it. In fact, I saw a chart today provided by someone about the for 2023 season, the investment that all the major programs have put into baseball versus the return in the form of attendance. Mississippi State was somewhere around top 15, top 19 in investment, believe it or not, barely top 20 in what they're paying, but easily number one in attendance. So you talk about return on investment, and NCAA is missing out a chance to make some money, even though baseball is not a huge revenue sport. All that said, I can look at it another way too. Don't lose to Central Arkansas. Don't get swept by Austin Peay, or don't give up leads against Ole Miss, against Florida, even Arkansas. And we're not even having this conversation. We're talking about hosting this weekend. So you balance it against the fact that 2 months ago, everybody's getting ready to fire the coach because they think you're not going to make the NCAAs. It's a measure, again, of what the expectations are of this program, that you're disappointed not to be hosting after 2 years of missing the tournament entirely.
David Murray on your radio Tuesday edition of the program. Find them at genespage247sports.com. They'll tee you up, get you ready for postseason baseball. So, David, now that you have a chance to kind of let it soak in and you see the regional, what is your thoughts of the 4-team regional that Mississippi State will be partaking in?
I like it. I like the field. I like the way it sets up. The St. John's is a quality program in their own right. Chris Lamonis has some experience with them from way back himself playing them. And, Penn, if you manage to fall in the loser's bracket, you feel really good about whatever they're going to throw at you on the second day of a regional. The whole key, of course, is to say in the winner's bracket, although I remind people, too, if you're going to lose and still win a regional, lose on the first day. Mississippi State's more than proved that many times. Don't lose in round 2, which leads to the question, who do you pitch? I can never come to this time of year without being reminded 2003, Paul Mahalam against East Tennessee State, when he was not only the ace of the team, he was really the only reliable starter, and we threw him on the first day, and next day North Carolina is able to beat State. The State battles with the loser's bracket, loses to NC again. So I could see State shaking things up if the matchup is good. Now, when you're 2 seed, you can't take it for granted. I don't know St. John's that well. They're going to scout it and say, okay, do we dare, say, move Durangelo Sanjay up and throw him on Friday and save Cal Stephen for presumably Virginia? I mean, heck, Virginia could even lose, too. That's all the wild cards you play. That's why I tend to think that Coach Justin Parker will stick with Cal Stephen on the first night. But, boy, I could sure make a change. And, oh, by the way, does it even matter that much if the offense doesn't get its act back together in time?
Yeah, David, no, you're 100% correct. And I remember that regional you speak of, I guess it was Middle Tennessee State or MTSU. I remember that, and, of course, there was a lot of criticism of that. So, again, I'm glad I'm not making those decisions, and those coaches, of course, they get paid to make those decisions on pitching.
Well, the thing, too, is and this is back in the days of the 6-team regionals, but if you throw your ace the first game and weather interrupts it, you can get him back, because FL State made it to Omaha in both 90 and 97 because in 6-team regionals, again, but Bobby Reed in 90 and Eric Dubose in 97 were able to come back on throw because they had done the first night. But, 4-team regionals, you just really can't think that way. I think you play to win. At least I expect them to do that because, Lord knows, if you don't throw your number one on opening day and still lose, imagine the furor that uproad just blows up then. So I'm going to write a column about that, and not to get too literate on everybody, but borrowing on Rudyard Kipling's motto about 960 ways, and every one of them's right. There's no right way or wrong way to structure a rotation for a weekend. But I'll tell you this, as far as pitching, I think State can afford to go that way because the way Brooks Auger threw in Hoover, you feel really good about him coming back on Sunday, no matter who the opponent is. You got Pico Khan ready. If you can just get to those first 2 days without much of your bullpen, State could really come through the winner's bracket, the loser's bracket, and I've seen them win at Virginia. I was there in 2013 as well. I think it's a very winnable region for the Dogs. And, hey, I'm not worried about Arkansas because, first, you got to get there, and second, State should have won that series, could even have swept the series, and Arkansas is not playing really good ball right now.
Make sure to find them at Gene's page, 247sports.com. They'll have you teed up all week long and through the weekend for baseball regional play. David, I appreciate your time as always. Look, enjoy the baseball weekend. It should be fun.
Jake, Ben, good to hear from you.
Thanks so much. David Murray on your radio. We're brought to you by our friends at Janney King. Go to JanneyKingCleans.com for more information. Let them help you in your office, church, or venue. Go to JanneyKingCleans.com. Chris Landry coming up next.
Business Communications Incorporated has been an information technology provider for over 25 years, serving the state of Mississippi and the region. Now more than ever, you need your network at your office, business, or place of worship protected from hackers and thieves. BCI is the security and technology team for you. From managed IT services to data backup solution, from ransomware protection to disaster recovery planning and more, BCI is your network knight in shining armor. Head over to bcipeople.com or call 601-427-4185 to begin your protection today. Don't be held hostage over your network or data. Let BCI work for you.
The number you have reached.
WRKS Pickens Jackson. From college football to the NFL to high school football. 365 days a year. Hear it all on Jackson Sports Authority. Live and local at 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com. Now let's get back to the afternoon drive with Jake Wimberly.
Appreciate David Murray jumping in. Hour 2 starts right now, courtesy of Mississippi Legends Grill. Bingo, trivia, kids eat free on Thursdays. And, of course, enjoy everything. The SEC baseball regionals, of course, the NCAA regionals, not just the SEC. Well, yeah, it is. It's kind of like the SEC baseball regionals. You can jump in and enjoy that at Mississippi Legends Grill, corner of Castlewood's Drive and Lakeland Drive, where everyone knows your name. We'll get Chris Landry in here in just a bit, talk a little SEC football. We'll also have Kelley Ford coming in 5:30 to 6. KFordratings.com. He's almost got his initial power rankings done for the year. We'll get with him and check in on that coming up here at 5:30. Also, let's see, Texas coach Mike Elko on Texas joining the SEC. Quote, we should play them. We have 2 programs like that in the state, 2 hours away. They should play every year, and it should mean a lot. And, of course, Texas coach Steve Sarkisian asked about joining A&M in the SEC. Quote, there was so much talk about realignment for us. We gained 2 rivals back. We're playing Arkansas and Texas A&M again. We're looking forward to it. A&M, I'm sure they are too. And that is Steve Sarkisian talking this week out in Dallas. Of course, SEC spring or SEC summer meetings as we move along. Chris Landry, LandryFootball.com is the website. Make sure to find him on X at Landry Football. Chris, I hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Jake. How you doing?
Doing well. All right, so we're chalking through. Let's go college, and then we'll talk a little NFL in the second segment. We got, the spring meetings / summer meetings. It's talking season. Spring practice is over. Transfer portal, for all intents and purposes, is over. I want to start out in the state of Texas. Texas A&M coach Mike Elko said to Brett McMurphy this week, quote, we have the base to be really, really special. And I just felt a collective eye roll across the Southeastern Conference when that was said. What did he mean, and can Texas A&M be really, really special?
Well, I don't know what I'm going to tell you what I think he meant, which is what you're looking for. And I think he probably means, because he's been there before, the same thing we've always said about A&M. It starts with, if you think about programs and what you need, programs that maybe are not real successful, what do you need? What do they need to get successful? Well, a fan base that's not only supports it and has the passion, but puts the money in the program. Well, check. They've got that. Facilities that are going to be as, certainly competitive with anybody in the country. Check. They've got that. They've got those things. In fact, that's where the collective eye rolls come in. Well, they've always had the money. They've always done this, but they've never won. So that is a little bit of a unique challenge. Still better off than those that don't have the financial resources and are limited. They've got a low ceiling. A&M's got a high ceiling. They've just never even come close to. I mean, they basically have performed like they're in a crawl space. They just don't. They don't accomplish nearly what their potential is. Is Mike Elko going to be any different? I don't know. I really don't. I do think one of the things that they've gotten away from was, all right, we're going to be great because we've got all this money, and, man, NIL is built for us. Well, as we know, even in the world of NIL, you better know what you're doing, and you better spend that money correctly. It's kind of like we talk about these rich athletes. And I was thinking about this today or the other day with Antonio Brown. I'm sure you heard about it. And think about this and this. Okay, made $88 million, and he filed for bankruptcy, claiming he has no more than $50,000 in assets. That's a perfect example of riches, but doesn't know what to do with it. And I've seen a lot of that in my career with players. Well, with the Aggies is an example of, they got a lot of money. Yeah, they brag about what they can do, but they've never been real productive in utilizing that money. Well, that to me is maybe what he's saying is, look, we've in a different way, we've got the resources and the potential. We just got to do a better job with it. I thought what they have done, they became a little bit more of, we're going to sell you on the idea you come here and you're going to make money. Well, then they realize if players are coming for money, they're going to leave for $1 more, and they're not going to be committed to being in your program. You still need the money, but you need them to come for the reason of wanting to be a part of your program. And, oh, by the way, you're going to get paid well through NIL. And I think what they did is they got guys to come because of the money, and they didn't stay because they weren't committed to the program. And I think what Mike Elko has been commissioned to do is we need to get back to Aggies and, sell that and the Aggie spirit and all that, Harry High School stuff. I get all that, but they need to get more of that. And, oh, by the way, the money's going to be there, but you need to get guys that want to stay and develop. I think that's what he means, and that's what he's trying to get to.
Chris Landry talking SEC football and, of course, National College Football, Tuesday edition of the program as we start a day late this week due to the holiday. LandryFootball.com, Landry Football on X. All right, Steve Sarkisian, nothing but high praise about joining the SEC. And I'm paraphrasing here, talking about realignment, also talking about gaining. He doesn't say one rival, Chris. He says two. He says, hey, we get Texas A&M, but we also get Arkansas. For those that are not old enough to remember, Chris, that Texas-Arkansas rivalry way back when was pretty big, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, you go through the greatest games in history, and, man, there are many. And over my years, and, you can relate to this somewhat. I'm a little older, but there have been a lot of games over the past 30 years that have become big and big. But, 1969, Texas, Arkansas, for people who don't know, the president flew in and watched it. Now, President Nixon was a big football fan. But, yeah, that was as big as can be. I don't know that I could put anything, in the past 20 years that was huge. They changed the date of the game for TV because it was just that huge. Oh, yeah. And Arkansas was the sore thumb in the Southwest Conference. All the schools in the Southwest Conference were in Texas, except Arkansas. And, you had Darrell Roy and Frank Broyles. So, yeah, but even when they played it in recent times, it's had a special tone to it. And that's a little bit of a dig for Texas, too. They like to talk about how, all right, kind of like Alabama talks about Tennessee. And Bear Bryant always said Tennessee was the biggest rival, not Auburn, because he wouldn't want to give Auburn enough respect to say they were the biggest rival. This is Texas's version of saying, yeah, a little brother there, A&M, is big, but, Arkansas is pretty big, too. I think that's the way of saying that without saying it.
I'm laughing because isn't that the way we do this, though, Chris? I mean, if you asked, now I don't know that you're going to get that out of Lane Kiffin and Jeff Lebby, but I mean, there was a day where Dan Mullen wouldn't reference Ole Miss as Ole Miss. I mean, we've seen this with across rivalries. Coaches tend to do that, don't they?
They do. They do. I mean, the whole that the school up north and and all that stuff is it is comical, and it is funny. They become like fans. In that sense, they tend to talk and react like fans do. I think it is comical.
Chris, Sarkisian was also asked, they're talking in terms of injury reports now in college football. Do you like this idea? Now, see, they were asking him, how do you keep teams truthful? He says, well, I think you may have to have some sort of a fining system. That's what they do in the NFL. The NFL has figured it out. Don't reinvent the wheel. What is your thoughts on an injury report in college football?
It's going to become essential with gambling. And I think that's the reason. And it's why it's done in the NFL. It's pure and simple. It's to protect that. And they will not say that because that's taboo. It's like, they are benefiting, NFL does, in college football, will benefit so much from gambling, but yet they will not ever admit, gambling? Oh, no, let's not look there. Let's not look under that. But that's the reason. And look, those of us that have been in the NFL know that's kind of the right way to do it. But, in college it was always taboo. Oh, we don't do that. I think it's essential. Now, it's going to be up to, I think, the SEC, the Big Ten, to kind of take charge like it is in everything to try to figure out how to do it and how to police it. You can do it. But as we've discussed in college athletics, everybody kind of does their own thing. So how do you deal with it when you have an SEC team playing a Big Ten team? This is part of the problem, and I always talk about is I'm not saying we need some commissioner that's going to, strike the gavel and tell everybody what to do. No, but we need to have uniformity in college football. We need to have uniformity with officials. We shouldn't have SEC or Big Ten officials. We should have college football officials. And, if you want to put them geographically, depending on where they live and put groups in front. But you need to have also universal policies that everyone needs to follow, and this is one of them. I think it's essential. It's essential due to gambling, because without it, then you run the risk of having some integrity issues, that's the one thing we can't have. We cannot have that in any sport. It's the one thing that I think fears most administrators in sports.
Make sure to find him at LandryFootball.com, also on X at Landry Football. When we come back, we'll jump into the NFL. Visiting with Chris Landry on a Tuesday. Back in a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come to go back.
Back to the afternoon drive with Jake Wimberly. With the hottest sports stories of the day.
For one of those moments that only happens
right here
on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
Brought to you by the MHSAA. Officially become official today. Go to MISSHSAA.com or call 601-924-6400. Congratulations to the Mr. Baseball, Miss Softball winners. Was at the MHSAA office this morning for that award ceremony. And, of course, congratulations as they move forward with more winners. And, of course, you can contact the MHSAA office today. Chris Landry on your radio. Segment 2, find him at LandryFootball.com and Landry Football on X. All right, Chris, let's jump to the NFL. Looking at some notes for the NFL, it's hard to believe because things kind of just happen, and then we look up and go, wow. But the Chiefs will be looking to become the first team this year in NFL history to win 3 straight Super Bowls after defeating the 49ers this past February. They've appeared in 4 of the last 5 championship games, winning 3 of them. So I've got several thoughts on what's your take on this. One, I was unaware. You look at it and think, man, that's never happened, and the Chiefs have an opportunity to do that. In a league that is built for mediocrity, we know that, based on the history of free agency and the way this league has manifested itself into where it is today. The Patriots defied that, and now the Chiefs are defying that. Your thoughts on where this club is as far as, I don't want to say history of the NFL, but we're starting to get into that space. And then, 2, why in a league that is built for mediocrity have the Chiefs and formerly the Patriots been able to defy what the league actually wants?
Well, the reason is Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. Let's start there. That gives them a huge advantage in both places. That they were in the mix every year. And then I would throw in Bill Belichick and Andy Reid. Their ability to build teams and coach teams, in the case of Bill Belichick, defenses are always good. In the case of Andy Reid, the offenses are always good. And Andy has done a really good job of adapting to whatever it's going to take to get them over the top. Great quarterback, but let's take last year, having a problem. Figure it out after the loss to the Raiders on Christmas Day. We need to run the football more and play to the strength of our team, which is the defense, which is against what Andy normally believes as a play caller, as an offensive guy. But as a head coach, he said, this is what we need to do. Okay, they don't win a Super Bowl if they don't make that adjustment. So it's a combination, the reason why they've been able to do it. I think what the Patriots did and what the Chiefs have done is even more impressive than, say, because for people who are maybe remembering but maybe misremembering, you're right. The Steelers won 2 and then won 2 in a row. They won 4. That was a great team that stuck together, but they didn't win 3 in a row. They won 2, and then there was a break in between. I don't know. History says, you just said it, history says the Chiefs won't do it because of that reason, but they're certainly going to be in the mix. It takes some luck. I think in the modern era of free agency, where it's tougher to keep a team together than you saw in the 70s, early 80s, it's a problem. I think the Jimmy Johnson Cowboy teams could have done it if it wasn't for Jimmy and Jerry's, divorce. I think there are a number of reasons. I think the other why it doesn't happen, and the other thing I think that's difficult, you keep in mind, let this sink in. Yeah, I know the teams that are good consistently always have a chance. But look at when the regular season is over and how much more football a team that goes to the Super Bowl has to play. If you do that for like a 4-year stretch, you've played like an extra season of football. Now, I realize some of the players come and go, and some of them that were on the Super Bowl team for a 1 or 2 year period may be different than the ones in the latter two. But the reason why it's so difficult is obviously people get better and you lose players, but look at how shorter your off season is. So if you're the teams that are successful, it's tougher and tougher to, get back in the flow. And then there's just something to the competitive edge. It's tough to get guys to be as motivated to win it again as opposed to winning it for the first time, which is why I think your roster management and having the influx of guys that maybe have not done it, adding them to the mix where they've got maybe a motivational factor. I know everybody wants to win, but it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to have to do it over and over again. I think everyone can relate to that when motivation is there, when you have a carrot in front of you versus when you've had some success, you tend to kind of coast a little bit. Normally, it's human nature.
Chris, once the NFL kicks off, we've talked with you about international play before, but the NFL will play their first ever South American contest. The Eagles will take on the Packers. That'll be Friday, September 6th down in Brazil. And I wanted your thoughts on this just a little bit more. We've talked about this before. It's been quite a while ago. We know about the overseas games across the pond, as they say, in Germany, and they play here, there, and yonder. The Jags have become a staple overseas. I don't know that the NFL will ever expand to be a quote unquote global, league, so to speak. Is this more about branding? Is it trying to generate revenue in other places outside of the country? What is the attraction? Is it more than money, or is it just simply money to go to Brazil and play for the first time ever, to go over and play in Germany, to play, now almost double handful games outside of the United States?
It's money driven, and it's tapping into markets where they're not making money. It's almost like, it's not like they've completely tapped out the money in this country, but think about it. It's just, there's nowhere to go in this country. You can think about this. Why did they make over the whole Taylor Swift thing? Because they were tapping into markets with young girls and women that maybe weren't big football fans, that were now buying Travis Kelce jerseys because that's big. They love that. They love playing that up because it's tapping into maybe a new market, because the football fan is always going to follow it, always going to be excited. Well, I can remember I was part of a team in Cleveland with Coach Belichick. Well, we played one of the first games overseas in the preseason. We played the Eagles. And, I mean, Dick, I can remember this now. Brian Brennan caught this unbelievable touchdown pass. And, I mean, he got both feet in, and it was unbelievable. And the crowd didn't even know what to do. Didn't even clap. We lined up and kicked the extra point, and they went into a roar. And it's because they kicked the ball between the uprights. That's how little they knew about football in Europe. Now it's become bigger and bigger. It's why they put money into the World League, even though it lost money for years. They finally got out of it and stopped their losses. They're trying to penetrate in all markets in different continents to get money involved. There's some people that believe that eventually we'll get to the point. I don't know about a team there. Maybe that is a possibility, but this has been floated out. As we go to, and we're probably going to go to 18 games, but there's been some talk about having every team has 8 games at home, 8 games on the road, and 1 game outside the country. There's some talk about maybe doing that to where you got more exposure to more teams in different places. All money driven, and when you're making as much money as the league is, they're trying to find new zero-sum game, right? So they're trying to find new ways to bring an extra dollar in.
Make sure to find him at LandryFootball.com, also on X at Landry Football. Chris, I appreciate your time on a short week this week. Look, have a great weekend, and we'll do it again next week.
Hey, thank you so much. Take care.
Appreciate it. Chris Landry on your radio, brought to you by the Westin in Jackson. Head over to learn more today at WestinJackson.com. Great stuff going on all summer long at the Westin Jackson. Make sure to check out their website. Estelle Southern Table opens 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. And, of course, more information, call 769-235-8400. Back in a bit.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And welcome back to the Afternoon Drive with Jake Wimberly, where he's talking about anything and everything that's Mississippi sports.
No, great afternoon.
Right here on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and gone live worldwide on The Zone 1059.com.
Appreciate Chris Landry jumping on your radio. We're brought to you by A1 Guaranado, your hometown vehicle specialist. Anything under the hood, 601-939-1060. Let A1 get your vehicle in Class A shape. We're also brought to you by Maristar Casino. Get out and play today. We'll have Kelley Ford at 5:30, coming up in about an hour, 58 minutes. And we'll take you to the end of the show talking college football. Bill, and you can text us on the Cowboy Maloney's text line, 601-885-3776. Jake, I don't think Chris Landry is completely correct when he says the entire SEC is eye-rolling their eyes at Texas A&M and Mike Elko. No, I said that. Chris did. He said, I'm a State fan, but I think Elko is the best coach they've had in quite a while. Could be, but you're not buying that, are you? That Michael Elko is the best coach. I mean, on paper, maybe so. I mean, on paper, Jimbo Fisher was the best. But I think everybody that follows college football realized that was probably a facade. But I get where you're going, Bill. Jake from Yazoo. Jake to Beeves. Been a while. Miss hearing you guys. Great show today. Keep the college kids' medical records personal, in my opinion. Gamble at your own risk. What do you think about that? And Chris Landry was right there in your wheelhouse. He's like, it has everything to do with gambling. They just won't say it. It's taboo. You can't say it. Right? You can't get up there and say it. Do you think they should keep the medical records private?
Medical records. Now, I wouldn't go that far, because when I think of medical records, that makes it sound like you are handing over these classified,
HIPAA records.
Yes. It's just updating an injury. And in this day in college football, where we're trying to make seemingly everything closer to NFL, well, that is a move closer to the NFL.
100%.
So I hate it because, like I said, and I'm glad Chris said it too, that I hate that it's so geared towards, because that is very geared towards gambling. Got to have their info, all that business. So I think it's totally fine to list injuries. Like I said, medical records, that seems like a stretch. You're not giving records. You're not giving medical records. You're just saying, hey, this guy's out.
He's probable.
This guy's out with a knee injury.
Right. Questionable with a knee injury.
Yeah. I don't see where the harm is in that. But the fact that underneath it all, that it's so much of it is about gambling. I don't care much for that, but it's where we are.
Florida coach Billy Napier was asked during meetings this week. Early said he couldn't comment specifically about the lawsuit filed by Georgia quarterback Jaden Rashada. Quote, I'm comfortable with my actions, and I'm thankful for the university's support. Greg Sankey, SEC commissioner, was asked about the same thing, and he says, quote, I'm not a fan of lawsuits. I would agree with Greg on that. Sankey said the league will discuss player availability reports, such as injury reports, at SEC spring meetings, but does not expect a decision this week. Also, Sankey, quote, I don't expect a lot of conversation on football scheduling, whether to remain at 8 SEC league games or increased to 9 this week. SEC schedules are done for the next 2 seasons. So out of all the SEC hubbub going on this week, don't expect to hear a whole lot about scheduling because, as he said, they're done for the 2 years. Also, Sankey said the SEC will announce some kickoff times for SEC's first 3 weeks on Thursday. So Thursday, you will get some SEC ballgame times. Also, intended to eliminate collectives, the NCAA settlement has triggered their next evolution. Many are transitioning into university-funded marketing agencies, positioning schools to circumvent the cap and mitigation legal risk. Ross Dellinger has a report on this. He says perhaps some new information from settlement docs in here, more on the economic incentive for schools to bring collectives in-house. They can increase cap space by buying athletes' NIL rights, plus using those rights to generate third-party NIL. Third-party NIL does not count towards the cap. Also, the New Orleans Saints, what is this defensive end? Lost the defensive end for the year with a torn Achilles. Do you see this, Beef? Tano Pasagon? I know I just totally messed that up. Anyway, he's a defensive end for the New Orleans Saints. He is done. The Patriots have agreed to terms with Drake May, and they do not have his terms out, but he is signed with the Patriots. Also, we're 100 days from NFL kickoff today. Can you believe that? Do you think Saints Bro knows that we're 100 days away from kickoff? No way in hell.
No. Yeah, I'm going to text him that right now and see if he even knew.
Yeah, see if he's got a countdown clock.
Yeah, don't tell me that the NFL is the only thing that matters and then not even keep up.
Right. Ask him, say, how many days do you think we are away from kickoff in the NFL? The Arizona Cardinals have signed first-round draft pick Marvin Harrison Jr., their number 4 overall selection, and they finally got all this hubbub with Fanatics out of the way. He can now sign autographs, shirts, memorabilia, and sell it. Post-spring portal college football top 25, Jesse Simonton has put his out. He's got Georgia. This is after everything that's gone on. He's got Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Alabama 4. There's no way in hell Alabama's the 4th best team. Simonton needs to recheck. There's no way Alabama is the 4th best team in college football. Oregon 5, Ole Miss 6, Michigan 7, Notre Dame 8, Florida State 9, and Missouri at number 10. LSU at 16, just looking at some of his others. Alabama at 4. Let's see. Over the weekend, Jacksonville State All-Conference USA defensive lineman Chris Hardy has pledged to head to Ole Miss. So Ole Miss gets another one. Some depth here. I mean, who knows? It could be in the 2 deep. 61 tackles, 16 tackles for loss, and 8.5 sacks. So Ole Miss continues to bolster that defensive front before the season starts. Also, I am going to assume this is a cousin or a brother. He looks just like the guy. Madden Iamalava has committed to UCLA. Wait a minute, I didn't say that right. Iamalava? Did I get it right that time? Well, he has a brother, I guess. It looks just like the guy. Madden. His name is Madden. I wonder if his father named him after the game.
Wait, his name is Madden. Where does Iamaleava come in?
It's his last name, like Nico.
But you said his name is Madden.
Madden Iamaleava.
Oh, okay. Madden, I got you.
Yeah.
That's pretty standard last name, so I don't know that you can really think that that's his brother.
That's true. And let's see here. Nick Schultz reports after the NCAA and Power 5 conferences reached a settlement in the House case this week, there are still plenty of questions about what the new landscape will look like. Greg Sankey said he expects clarity in the coming months, and I would agree with that because this is still very muddy. There's not a whole lot of clarity in this. There's a lot of words. It's a lot of word salad. This reminds me of a government deal where they pass the bill and you got to read it to see what's in the bill. 601-885-3776. That is the Cowboy Maloney's text line. Make your house a home with Cowboy Maloney's. We're also brought to you by our friends at Gutter Masters. Custom gutter solutions on your home or commercial building. Call 601-503-7755. GutterMastersLLC.com. Get protected today. We got to take a timeout. Back with more in a bit. Timeout on the floor.
Okay, we're back.
I'm ready. It's more the afternoon drive with Jake Wimberly, where he's live and local on Jackson Sports Authority, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, and online at thezone1059.com.
We're brought to you by Malone Roofing Services. ecmalone.com is their website. 8337-MALONE. Commercial and residential roofing done right with Malone Roofing Services. That's 8337-MALONE. We're also brought to you by Ameristar Casino. Let's go to Wes. Wes, thanks for holding. How are you, sir?
Good, sir. How are you? How's my phone?
Man, so far so good. I'm doing well.
Okay. All right. Could go either way. 50-50. It's like Woody Asaph predicting the weather.
That's right.
Could go either way. So, am I to understand that they're talking about opening up medical records for student athletes? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, not necessarily medical records for student athletes. They're talking about basically just think the NFL having an injury report. They're talking about having an injury report for college football.
Okay. So, I don't understand why they just don't listen to us, the viewer. Why would they? Why would they? We're just the ones who watch it. They don't. The governing bodies of this collegiate, monstrosity keep doing these things to change the game that have. One of them is panning out, and that is the playoff expansion. One of them, and that's only because it's making them more money. But in the process, they're ruining, the pageantry of the bowl game system. I mean, they've got 68 bowls now. Everybody can get in one. I think Callaway just got a pre-invite to the Hawaii Bowl yesterday. There's the Piano Key Necktie Bowl that takes place in Bermuda, which all of 7 people will go to. You know what I mean? And I heard they're getting rid of the Gasparilla, not the Gassy. No, don't shut down the Gassy. The Gasparilla Bowl. These are just little things they're doing that is eventually going to bite these kids in the butt. The NFL, what happens on draft day? It's going to be exactly like the only thing I can compare it to is the military. When you go into MEPS and they look down and they see a grocery list of problems, they're going to go, I don't know. You're gonna need to do something about this. And it just, a couple of years, NEP's changed the documentation or changed the medical record system. So now they see way far back than they used to. Usually you could just walk in and go, nope, never broke the leg. You can come in there bow-legged as chicken breast. Nope, never broke the leg. They're like, all right, good to go. Sounds like you're going to be a great Marine, son. See ya. You know what I mean? This is going to open up. And the kids that just have bumps and bruises, they're going to leave school early because they're like, oh, I better go now, And it is going to furthermore degrade that thing they keep making fun of all of us about, which is the fact that we love the tradition of college football. And they call us boomers about it, but there's a reason that it worked for so long. You know what I mean? And now they're going in and making a lot of these changes. It's just unnecessary. It wasn't broke. Don't fix it.
Wes, thank you, sir. Appreciate it as always.
All right, appreciate it. Space Ghost sits when he feeds.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it wasn't broke. I mean, they've always tried to modify it, but it's about what? Money. Money, money, money. We know that, right? At the end of the road, when things start changing, it's any walks of life. All through the history of time. Used to be rocks or furs. You know, if you were living in the ancient days as a caveman and Wes could harvest more furs than you wouldn't eat, right? Now it's about money. We've gone through gold and silver and all this other stuff. Now we're at money. It's just money. The story never changes. The times change. 3-Hump Camel. Rest in peace, Bill Walton. Absolutely. Let's see here. There was a report last week. We didn't get a chance to. Did you see this? Shiloh Sanders' NIL earnings have been called into question after declaring bankruptcy. Did you see this? In a court, per the Denver Westward, he faces an $11.89 million lawsuit alleging he attacked a security guard at a Texas high school in 2015. So this has been swept way under the rug, allegedly. So we will get into some of this. Also, let's see here. College of Charleston coach Chad Holbrook blasts selection committee for the 2024 baseball tournament snub. Did you see his interview? It was very sad. Like, his team was really good. They didn't make it. Now, this guy, I think, had a legitimate gripe. They didn't get in. And, I mean, again, when you get down to the end of this thing, regardless if it's World Series, March Madness, college football playoff, you're always going to have people that quote-unquote get snubbed. And we'll get into ranking the college football 10 richest coaches based on contract buyouts. And the best quarterbacks as far as dynamic quarterbacks. Let's see here. Unnamed texter. Pelt. Jake, it's Pelt. What is he referring to? What did I say?
You were talking about the furs.
Oh, the pelt. Oh,
they hunt. Yeah, they hunted for the pelts and such. You're thinking of Tennessee baseball, the furs. That's what I went. That's what my brain goes to when you talk about furs. Is the fur coats, Vitello, all that. Who, as I understand, once again showed some more trashy tendencies in the tournament last week.
Tennessee?
Yeah,
it never left.
Apparently not.
They just dialed it back. Now it's back. Now it's back on. Dial it back up. Right? Yeah, it's Pelt, Jake. It's Pelt. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So, you know, pelts and furs. So is Tennessee baseball are we fixing to witness the obnoxious, are they dialing up the obnoxious version of Tennessee baseball?
Of course they are.
So if they make the World Series, we're going to see the furs, glasses, champagne in the dugout, middle fingers going around the bases, that kind of stuff?
Yes, we will. But fortunately, history, I'm talking recent history, tells us that they will be knocked out soon.
Excommunicated. They could get knocked out. You never watched John Wick, did you?
A couple of them.
Okay.
First two.
I couldn't remember.
Never saw the last one.
All right, so you know excommunicated. So they're going to get excommunicated from the tournament. 3-Hump Camel says boots with the furs. Yeah.
Apple bottom jeans.
And unnamed texter, the Eastern and Western NBA Conference Finals have never both ended in a sweep. Could that happen tonight? Is that tonight?
Yep. Yeah, both these series have been whatever. I mean, we saw the sweep last night, and tonight could be both conferences get the sweep, and then I believe if that happens, we just sit here for 9 days until the finals start, the NBA finals.
Yeah, that's kind of odd.
God forbid you, adjust the schedule. I don't know that that's really 100% possible with the arenas they play at and whatnot, but you just set it and say, oh, well, no matter what, we've got to wait. If there's a sweep here, we got to wait that 9 days. Do nothing.
Also, 247sports.com reports NCAA needs regional expansion because we ain't got enough in baseball, selection process changes, and Troy coach Skylar Meade has more to say on this. So now we're talking baseball expansion. because 64 is not enough. Do we need more? We want to expand everything. Everything needs to get expanded. Also, we'll get into some updated transfer portal numbers, Alabama, Oregon, Spike College football transfer portal rankings as we move along. 601-885-3776 if you want to text us on the Cowboy Maloney's text line. And let's see here. Birmingham Southern College Baseball, their team has launched a GoFundMe to compete in the College World Series because their school is shutting down. They've already raised over $100,000. Have you heard this story? Yep. Very interesting story, sad story. We will get into some of that as we move along. And, of course, we will visit with Kelley Ford coming up at 5:30 and get into some K Ford ratings as we move along. We're brought to you by New South Neurospine, Mississippi Spine Center, online at ns2.md, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturday, 8 to 1. Swing in their location in Flowood, Mississippi Spine Center. You can go right in and get an appointment or learn more at ns2.md. We're also brought to you by Sound Communications, online at soundcomav.com. They've been around since 1955. Collaborate, design, and build. Hour 3 up next.
WRKS Pickens Jackson, where it's
Time
to take a ride. Yes, we're back with Jake Wimberly on the afternoon drive. It's live, it's local, and it's on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
Hour 3 starts right now, courtesy of our friends at Capitol Grill in Jackson, 5050 I-55 North, Suite F. Grab a Michelob Ultra, grab a Bud Light. Please drink responsibly, courtesy of our friends at Southern Beverage. You can do that at Capitol Grill in Jackson, 5050 I-55 North, Suite F. 18 TVs to get the game of your choice, NBA ball games, college baseball, you name it, they've got it. Get a game of pool, an appetizer, a meal. Forget about your work day with Lance and his team at Capitol Grill of Jackson. Also find them on Facebook.com/Capitol Grill Jackson as well. David Murray joined us hour 1 talking Mississippi State baseball. Dogs, as we know now, headed to Virginia to take on the Cavaliers and the rest of the field there, as Vegas seems to like Mississippi State's chances there. We were going through this earlier. We'll get back into some of this. Ameristarcasino.com/Vicksburg. You can get the bet builder. We'll talk with Keith Hardy Friday about this. You can play every regional. Literally from Tallahassee, Tucson, Santa Barbara, you name it, you can play it. But right now, and by the way, Southern Miss, they have the second best odds in the Knoxville Regional. But looking at the Charlottesville Regional, Virginia plus 100, Mississippi State plus 105. It's not a dime worth. Vegas doesn't think it's a dime's worth of difference really between Virginia and Mississippi State. St. John's 10-1, Pennsylvania 25-1. Chris Landry, hour 2. We were talking college, NFL football. And you can text us 601-885-3776. Kelley Ford will join us in 30 minutes. We'll talk college football and his power rankings. Unnamed texter says, yeah, expand it. Make the regular season even more meaningless. Talking about baseball. Or how about this? When you're not good enough, you don't get in. These... What is that? Booty cheek feathering gerbil. What is this beaver? Born in 19... I don't even know what this... What is this? What does this even mean? I feel like I'm breaking FCC violations here. What does this mean?
It means the soft, delicate flowers that were born post-1989 want to just expand everything. Inclusion. Let's just let all the teams in.
Gotcha.
Let's have it be fair to everybody.
Which we know is just whatever. No. Is 89, is that the cut point? 1989.
Yes, 1989. I think that's fair because that's the year your favorite Taylor Swift was born. So people in that era, yeah, I think that's a fair cutoff point or a fair starting point, let's say.
You know, I told you this Taylor Swift stuff's serious. Like at a personal level. You know, I told you my 10-year-old got after me. She got after me again this weekend about Taylor Swift.
What'd you do?
I made some joke about Swifties, and she turned from laughter and a 10-year-old child to almost like she was a 20-year-old woman and glared at me like she went straight out of child character into grown woman. It was like, don't you do that. Don't you talk about it. And she referenced her first name, Taylor. I've got a problem on my hands. This is my child.
She's 10, right?
Yes.
See, she wasn't even around when Swifty was making these stupid little, cheap radio songs, but they were so catchy. And that was before 10 years ago. Like, Zoe doesn't even know.
She wasn't even alive.
Yeah, she wasn't even alive for the best Swiftie. Because back then she was just this stupid, little, it started out country. She had a couple of catchy things. And then when she started going over to the more pop, like, we are never, ever, 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 ever getting back together. It's a real dumb song, but it's fun and it was catchy. See, she only knows this serious business. Taylor Swift, I am a all-powerful woman. I'm going to take over everything. Swiftie used to be okay.
Starting to think my 10-year-old would disassociate with me over Taylor Swift.
Probably.
It's becoming a problem. Hey, let's go to Kansas, where a broadcaster is out of a job after he got caught on a hot mic talking about soccer moms who were in the stands for girls' state tournament match. Awful Announcing has identified the announcer as Toby Moore, who was working for the NFHS network. I'm laughing because I do work for the NFHS network. Streaming service during a third-place match between Rose Hill and McPherson in the Kansas Class 4A/1A state championship tournament. At halftime, Moore, who fully admitted to Awful Announcing that he was caught on a hot mic, could be heard in the press box ripping on a variety of topics, including the play of the two teams on the field. Well, one, you can't really do that. That's a big no-no. Like high school sports, you really can't do that. Eventually, the conversation Moore is having was an unidentified male voice who voice turns to moms in the stands, and that's when old Toby let it rip. Okay, wait a minute. I can't read some of this. So maybe he did get a little overboard with this. It wasn't just saying he likes to look at mothers in the stands. I think this was a little more. I can't speak of this on the radio. So maybe this is why he got canned.
He got a little too specific,
yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, he got a little too specific. You got to be careful around these mics. Chris Brooks got caught on a hot mic here, didn't he?
Yeah. And Chris Brooks. I mean, the dude just nonstop cuss words. We were lucky that we didn't get fined.
Old pirate mouth Chris. Let's see. Rhett Cetera. I don't feel like anyone born after 1990 has enough garden hose water in them to talk about anyone being soft. Rhett may be onto something there. How much garden hose water did you have as a child?
I didn't have a ton. I mean, outside playing basketball a little bit, drink from the garden hose. Oh, but it was hard to get. We had these really annoying bushes you had to walk behind. So there could have been creatures and animals, and you know how I feel about that. So I didn't really walk behind the bushes that much.
So I grew up on what Rhett refers to as garden hose water, just out in the country.
Yeah.
Just, that's all we had. Garden hose, faucets. And to this day, like I will literally bypass the cooler in the kitchen and go straight to the sink to fill a water bottle up, to drink it. And yeah, I know, you see the way you look at me. Or you look at me like I'm crazy?
No, I'm looking at you in complete pride, I guess. I'm proud of that. Because I try to tell you what, little C won't drink the tap water. And I always tell her, there's nothing wrong with tap water. She's got to get her bottles.
She just wants bottled water.
Yeah.
But I have people in my life who look at me like I'm crazy and get on to me because I go to the sink at the house for water. Well, there's bottled water in the refrigerator, but I don't want the bottled water. I want the tap. We should be able to drink, unless you're in Jackson. You should be able to drink the tap water, right? And that's not a shot at Jackson. That is public knowledge. We don't drink the water in Jackson. But there is nothing wrong with water hose water or water out of the faucet. We've just been conditioned from 1990 up to not drink tap water, which is weird to me. Maybe it does start with the tap water.
Yeah, you got a lot of people these days, the influencers on the Instagram, they're telling us that everything's wrong with tap water. Don't drink tap water. Let's see, it's going to, I saw someone, this sounds ridiculous, but this is a thing. They tried to tell you that now a lot of chemicals have seeped down into the ground, into the water supply in a lot of places, but these people on Instagram and whatnot, these quote-unquote influencers, I've heard them say, oh, there's stuff in there that can cause diabetes. The water's going to cause diabetes. You're going to get poisoned. It's going to make you fat. I'm serious. I'm not even making this up. We're going to get diabetes from the water. We're going to get cancer from the water.
Really?
Yep. Just by, but it's very specifically, though, because you can't buy bottled water. It's got to be in glass bottles. That's the rage these days.
Glass bottles.
It's got to be in glass because even when it's in plastic, when it's in shipping, if it gets exposed to the sunlight, it can melt the plastics, and the microplastics could get into your water, and it's going to give you cancer. So you got to get glass bottles. You know how expensive glass bottles of water is?
I can't imagine it's cheap.
It ain't.
I've never priced it. PT for MSU is laughing. Louvier, garden hose water in such amounts as to make me completely immune to the issues of Jackson water. It actually tastes good. I agree with that. I really do like just regular water. Not talking about your glacier spring water that's probably not even from a glacier that's in your bottle. We're brought to you by our friends at Ranco Transmission, 1460 Old Brandon Road in Flowood, 601-939-9184, 50-plus years foreign and domestic. Back in a bit.
This is the home of the Chuck Oliver Show every weekday from 10 till noon on Mississippi's live and local sports authority. And where? We're back to Jake Wimberly with the afternoon drive on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
Taking you home on a Tuesday, we are brought to you by Capital Orthopedic. Online at capitalortho.com. Flowood, Madison, Clinton, Brookhaven, and Hazelhurst. Also, Kosciuszko. Move better, live better, and be better with Capital Orthopedic, 601-987-8200. Kelley Ford on your radio, K-Ford Ratings, kfordratings.com, college football power ratings, and resume ratings. Kelley, thank you so much for moving around. My apologies on I moved this. Look, if I was an offensive coordinator, I just really screwed my quarterback up, and that'd be you and Ben.
No worries, Jake. Always a pleasure to hop on with you, and I'm excited to talk college football as we're getting closer and closer to summer.
We really are, and I know you're kind of going through your rankings here. Kind of tell us where you are in that process before we start talking some specifics here.
Yeah, Jake, I'm getting really close. I think by the end of this week, I should be ready to publish my 2024 preseason ratings. Version 1, I'll probably have about 3, maybe 4 versions before we get to the finalized set, which will be in mid-August. But they don't change too much between the V1 version and what we get in mid-August. So I feel really good about where I am, compiling all the information that I need, building out the different graphics that I want to produce, and we'll be there by the end of the week, hopefully.
I want to start off with an infographic you put out last week on special teams. It says during the college football playoff era, on average, San Diego State has had the best special teams units per your power rankings. And just to kind of give some context to this, San Diego State 1, Stanford 2, Florida 3. This is, obviously through the college football playoff era, about 2014 up, last 10 years. A&M, Memphis, Tennessee, Auburn, Ohio State, Kansas State, and Iowa. So, but my question for you is this, have you seen a situation where, and look, we always hear coaches talk about 3 phases of the game, offense, defense, special teams, to where a bad special teams number maybe kept a team out, or maybe even a good one pushed the team in?
No, I don't think so, Jake, at least as far as what I've been able to determine, going back through the last 10 years of data that I've had access to generate these power ratings for both the offensive units, defensive units, and then the special teams units you talk about here. Special teams is certainly the unit of those 3 that carries the least amount of weight. And it makes perfect sense because that's the unit that's on the field by far the least. I mean, you're talking about a half a dozen to a dozen plays a game for any specific special teams unit, whether that's, your punt team, your punt return team, and then obviously the kickoff, the kick return team. And with some of the rule changes that have gone in place and limiting the number of kick returns, it's been even fewer in recent years. So special teams is a very, very small component of my power ratings. It's something that I've spent a pretty good amount of time on the last 2 or 3 off seasons now, trying to fine tune exactly how much weight that holds. But to put it in kind of the perspective of what does a special teams unit rating mean with regard to the overall team power rating, at most, if you have a really, really, really good special teams unit, Iowa in recent years comes to mind, South Carolina's had really good special teams here the last year or two, they're probably worth at most, 2, maybe 2.5 points to a team's power rating overall on a football points per game basis. So if you have a power rating of 30, that's going to be, in the top 5, certainly the top 10 nationally in any given year. If you have 2 points of that associated to your special teams is really, really good. So this is a small percentage of the overall team power rating. I don't think that special teams in and of itself has been a reason that a team's gotten in or a reason that a team's been kept out. Iowa's probably the most prolific example with regard to their defense and their special teams combined over the course of the last 5 or 10 years, with how they've really carried that program as a whole, with the offense being as bad as it's been, because the defense and to a lesser degree special teams have been so good. That's gotten Iowa over the hump in the Big Ten West. Of course, they've done away with divisions almost across college football entirely. We still have the Sun Belt holding out with divisions, but other than that, divisions are gone. So that doesn't necessarily mean as much moving forward, that Big Ten West title, if you will, since it doesn't exist. But Iowa's probably the example of a team that had a really good special teams unit that helped propel it on the field with regard to win-loss record, maybe more than anybody else here in the last 10 years.
I want to go to your best offenses. Some fascinating numbers here. Guys, you can find this at KFord Ratings on X. Also go to kfordratings.com. When you look, and I'm bringing this up because we're headed into the new era, the 12-team era. This is your numbers from, the college football playoff era starting at 2014. And to give context, scale 0 to 150 is considered FBS average. Oklahoma, Alabama, Ohio State, Oregon, and USC. That's your top 5 offenses in the last 10 years. Ole Miss down there at 7th. I want to get to some surprises on here, but for those that think, again, and I know a lot of people are going to go right back and beat me over the head with this and say, yeah, but Oklahoma played in the Big 12. This is why, even under Brent Venables and what they have on their staff, you look at what they did last year. I mean, Oklahoma, over the span of, Bob Stoops, Lincoln Riley, right at that end of that transition up until now, number 1 offense in the country over the last 10 years.
Yeah, Jake, it's been incredible, the offensives that have been in Norman the last 10 years, as you pointed out. And to the argument of, because I hear it too, well, they played in the Big 12. Well, who'd they play? Well, what about those defenses they played? You hear that really regardless of the data that I'm presenting, you'll get somebody or some group of people that will say, yeah, but strength of schedule. Yeah, but opponent's face. Probably the most helpful thing to know about my numbers, the thing that I'm most proud of with the numbers, is they are opponent adjusted. So I am taking into account, before I ever present any data, I am taking into account who you played, where you played, and by how much you won or lost those games. So when I say when my data says Oklahoma over the last 10 years has had an average offensive KFord rating of 96.1, that essentially means Oklahoma over the last 10 years, on average, every single year weighted the same. I'm not weighting last year more than 2014. It's just the way I chose to do this exercise. They all count equal weight. But Oklahoma over the last 10 years has averaged an offense in the 96.1 percentile of all college football teams. Like, that's how you can interpret this number that you see on the graphic next to each team. Alabama at number 2, 94.9. So over the last 10 years, they've been in almost the 95th percentile of all college football teams, again, on average, on the offensive side of the ball. So anybody who kind of comes at you, Jake, and says, well, yeah, but they played in this league, but they played against those defenses, that's been adjusted to account for that. So I feel good about those opponent adjustments. You said Ole Miss there at number 7, another one your audience will care about. Mississippi State came in at number 24 for me on the best offenses of the CFP era. So it was a fun little exercise, Jake. It's something that I needed to do to give myself a break, honestly, from all the data crunching that I was doing trying to prepare for the 2024 preseason B1 ratings coming out. I just needed to take a pause from all of the returning production calculations, roster scraping from websites, and just kind of say, okay, what can I do for fun that's still college football related? I'll take a look at the offensive, defenses, and special teams of the last 10 years.
Here's two surprises, well, at least for me when I think about 10 years because of some of the ups and downs. Memphis at number 17, and we know they've had some high-powered offenses, but then some years where they're not. And then Mississippi State at 24. And I say that because, yes, Dan Mullen had some high-power offenses, but then you look at the back end of his career there at Mississippi State, not so much. They had the Joe Moorhead hiccup for 2 years, the Mike Leach pop-off, and then the Zach Arnett deal last year, still at 24th.
Yeah, and another thing to consider here, Jake, again, it's a 10-year period, all weighted equally, every year weighted equally. So you look at Memphis at 17, like you said, they have a 73.1 raw score. Mississippi State at 24, 69.5. So in any given year, those numbers aren't going to jump out at you. 69th percentile, 73rd percentile, that's good. Certainly, that's good, and you want to be closer to 100 than not. But over any given year, that's not really that much to write home about in terms of the upper echelon of college football offenses, defenses, whatever unit we're talking about. But to average that over 10 years, that's where it gets impressive, because you just talked about some of the ups and the downs of those programs. Every single program, all now 134 of them, of course, Kennesaw State not included in this since they haven't been FBS for any of this period, but all 133 that I ranked here over the last 10 years, they've all had their own ebbs and flows, their own ups and downs. And so these two programs in particular, Memphis, Mississippi State, have sustained a higher level of success. They've had more ups than downs relative to most of FBS football, and that's how they get the numbers that they have here in the graphic.
Kelley Ford, K-Ford Ratings on X, kfordratings.com. Got to take a time out. Want to jump into the best defenses when we get back over the college football playoff era that he has calculated. We're brought to you by Clinton Body Shop. Go to clintonbodysshop.com or call 601-924-2159. Certified by the company that made your car to repair your car with OEM factory parts. Back in a bit.
And action!
We got that and a whole lot more around here. It's the Afternoon Drive with Jake Wimberly.
What's the score?
He's got that, along with the hottest sports stories of the day on ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at thezone1059.com.
We're brought to you by Cowboy Maloney's. Right now, Cowboy Maloney's has great deals on televisions, also living room essentials, also washers, dryers, you name it, they've got it. Cowboy Maloney's, 13 locations around the state of Mississippi, online at cowboymaloneys.com. Kelley Ford, segment number 2 on your radio. Kelley, we might get off into the defenses. You said that you had kind of a rough draft that you feel pretty good about, at least to talk about on the Southeastern Conference. I do want to kind of go there with you. So, kind of take us through what you're seeing as we head towards summer with the SEC.
Yeah, so, Jake, again, as we talked about earlier, getting really close to the 2024 preseason ratings, version 1, power rating for all the teams. Feel good about where I am really with the Power 5. And with your neck of the woods there in the SEC, thought we might want to talk about some of the kind of the tiers, if you will, of SEC teams right now based on what I'm looking at. So for me and my numbers, and again, Jake, this is a combination, going back to what we talked about before, it's a combination of power ratings, so how strong is any given team projected to be, but also, almost equally importantly, it's their schedule that they're going to play. Because even though all these teams are in the same conference, they do not play equal schedules because of those two things. Georgia and Texas, those are two teams that most people, including myself, are going to have, at the top of their power ratings in that top five. Georgia is certainly going to be number one for most, including myself. But when you look at the schedule that Georgia has to play within the SEC and you compare that to Texas, they actually end up pretty darn close with regard to projected conference wins by my numbers. I mean, those two teams are neck and neck right now for me at the top of the conference with regard to projected wins. Georgia, of course, on paper, the better team, but Texas might have the easiest schedule in all of the SEC.
No, I agree with you. And I'm sitting here, I just pulled up my stuff here on the quote-unquote hourglass that I run, and would 100% agree with what you said. I mean, Georgia, a little bit better as far as a football team, but when you look at schedules, I mean, they're bookend like literally the whole conference. I mean, Georgia, Florida at one end, Texas, Missouri, for me, right there at the other end.
Yep, 100%. So that, to me, is how you get Texas and Georgia kind of, I'll call that tier one. And we're splitting hairs here in the SEC. There's so many good teams. If you want to draw a dividing line with only two making the conference championship game, those two teams right now probably the odds-on favorites to make it to Atlanta and play in the SEC championship game. For me, then, there's a bunch of teams right after that. Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, Missouri. Again, all for, a combination of reasons. The projected strength of those teams and the schedule they play. You mentioned Missouri certainly has one of the easier schedules in the conference as well to go with Texas. Like you said, I agree with that. Those are probably the four teams that I'd have kind of in that next step down. Wouldn't be surprised at all if one or two of those teams played for the SEC championship in Atlanta. But just right now, as we're still 3 months away from the start of the season, they're probably a half step behind Texas and Georgia for projected strength and also combination of strength or schedule difficulty, as I call it. So Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, Missouri, kind of in that next group for me.
So Alabama, Ole Miss, you said Texas A&M and Missouri?
LSU and
Missouri.
Would be those ones, yeah. Texas A&M and Tennessee, Jake, they would comprise the next tier, and they'd be by themselves for me. So if you're looking at kind of a tier 1C or a tier 3, if you want to call it that, it'd be Texas A&M and Tennessee. Then there's kind of a significant drop down, and it's about a game, that's a large difference when you're talking about an 8-game conference schedule, which of course the SEC is playing. Once you get after Texas A&M and Tennessee, it's about a 1-game drop to that next group of teams that includes, Oklahoma and Kentucky. So that's going to surprise some folks, I think, when I debut this later this week, is where Oklahoma falls, because Oklahoma's a really good team. They play a really difficult schedule within the SEC, and because there are so many really good teams in the SEC, Oklahoma can be a top 15 or top 20 team nationally, but still be in the bottom half of that conference because of just how good that conference is. So I think some people might be surprised to see Oklahoma where they are in my projections. I haven't even mentioned Auburn, Florida, two teams that, again, on paper should be pretty darn good. Florida might have, or probably does, I think I could say that definitively now, have the most difficult schedule in the entire country. It's absolutely brutal for the Gators, and it's been that way for a couple of years now. 2024 is no exception. Jake, a lot of your listeners probably want to know Mississippi State. Mississippi State, as I go to their actual team page here in my computer on my end, they are right now for me, projecting to be in the mid-60s. So about FBS average, but when you stack that up against other teams in the SEC, it might be that, Mississippi State's only projected to be better than Vanderbilt this year. And again, as I go down their schedule, it's not easy, right? I mean, any conference game that you're looking at right now, my numbers make the Bulldogs most likely an underdog in all of them. The home game against Arkansas looks like the most winnable. My numbers there in week 9, but it's a really difficult schedule for Mississippi State. So a decent team, but when you look at the SEC standards, just not quite there, at least by my projections right now, looking at 2024.
Kelley Ford, K Ford Ratings on X, also KFordRatings.com, talking through his initial data dump for the SEC. He'll have that out later on this week. Let me ask you this, just from, let's use, just normal lingo here. So you got Georgia, Texas in your first tier, then you got Alabama, Ole Miss, LSU, and I think you said Missouri. And then you got Texas A&M, and I believe, did you say Tennessee?
Yep.
How close are those tiers relatively?
Yeah, so I do think, like right now, from Texas and Georgia, that's tier 1 to tier 2, you're looking at about half a game in SEC play. So that's half a game out of 8. So, that's a decent step. And then from Alabama, though, down to Tennessee, so looking at tiers 2 and 3 combined, there's less than a game separating all of those. So that's why I would not be surprised, Jake. Texas and Georgia, those are the top 2 teams right now by my numbers and with the schedules that they're about to play. Those are the 2 teams. If you ask right now, who are the 2 teams that are going to be in Atlanta, that's where the money would be if you're looking at data only. Of course, games aren't played on spreadsheets, all those things. Like, we know that. But right now, this is all we have to talk about, so we're going to talk about it. But then I would not be surprised at all if 1 or 2 teams out of this next group, Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, Missouri, Texas A&M, Tennessee, makes it to Atlanta. I would be then surprised, because then I said it's more than a game step down from Tennessee to that next group of kind of Oklahoma and Kentucky. I would be surprised if anybody out of this group here that I'm about to say makes it to Atlanta based on projections right now. I'd be surprised if Oklahoma, Kentucky, Florida, Auburn, South Carolina, Arkansas, Mississippi State, or Vanderbilt. That would be a surprise if any of those teams make it to Atlanta. Anybody else, though, from that kind of top half, at this point, I think they all have a path.
You spoke exactly the language that I was hoping you would spoke. Half a game, 1 to 2, and then 2 to 3, less than – so razor thin at the top half. So it leads me to this, and I have this theory. I'm not saying it's going to happen. SEC fans are beating their chest. We're going to get 4 teams in. We're going to get 5 teams in the playoff. I've said since spring, careful, depending on what happens everywhere else, because that matters. If the Big 12, for instance, has an undefeated team and then a 1-loss team, or the ACC has an undefeated team and then two teams with 1 loss, or the Big 10, you could find the SEC with potentially 3 or 4 9-win teams, a couple 10-win teams, an 11-win team. And based on the way the committee wants to go, and we don't really know this, I don't know that the league gets as many in as they think, because the league could cannibalize itself.
It absolutely could, Jake. And it all comes down to, you touched on it, the committee's behavior. And, how much faith do we have in the committee to be able to decipher objectively what is 9-3 in the SEC versus what is 10-2 in the Big 12 or the ACC. And that's oversimplifying it, because if Missouri goes 9-3, that's much different than if Florida goes 9-3, right? Like,
sure.
those 2 9-3s are not the same. But let's speak broadly for right now. If a team, generally speaking, if a team in the SEC goes 9-3, it is more likely than not that it will, by objective numbers like mine in my most deserving rankings, that's harder to achieve. That's a harder record to obtain than most likely, a 10-2 in the Big 12 or in the ACC. Like, that's just the depth of the conferences and just the week in, week out grind of the power rating of the team that you have to play every single week in the SEC. It's just a different level than even some of the other Power 4 conferences. So to get back to your point of, let's just pump the brakes, because we're not. It might work out that the SEC doesn't get as many teams as people think. I agree with you, but if the committee, if we can trust them to know the difference between 9-3 in the SEC and 10-2, and say that the ACC, I think that helps the SEC, right? That helps the SEC get more teams in, and my most deserving numbers will do that, Jake. Hopefully, we can talk about those throughout the season this year, as we've done in the past, because more importantly than ever now, with the field at 12 as opposed to 4, as you're debating, at large spot 5, 6, and 7 versus the first couple teams left out, you can't just look at the win-loss record. You really have to dive into what was the difficulty to achieve that record relative to what would be expected of a baseline team against that schedule. So it's going to be really, really interesting, and we're going to have to trust the committee to know the difference between the strengths of these conferences.
Good stuff. Kelley Ford. Make sure to find him at KFord Ratings. Go to kfordratings.com. Kelley, I appreciate your time. Great stuff as always. We'll be looking, and make sure to share that out as you continue to push that out this week, and we'll do it again next week.
Awesome, Jake. Appreciate it as always. Have a good one.
Thanks so much. Kelley Ford on your radio. We're brought to you by our friends at Rebel Hardware. Rebel Outdoor Power. Go to rebeloutdoor.com to learn more today. One more segment to go on a Tuesday. Back in a bit.
Listening to sports.
With Jake Wimberly on the afternoon drive.
One of the last pure pleasures I have left in my life.
Yeah, maybe you ought to get a life first, okay? On ESPN 105.9 The Zone and online at TheZone1059.com.
Appreciate Kelley Ford jumping in, talking college football. Also, Chris Landry and David Murray. You can always text us 601-885-3776. That is the Cowboy Maloney's text line. And we're brought to you by Maristar Casino. Get out and play today. All your college baseball odds are out at Ameristar. Let's see. New SEC 16 team logo. It's kind of the same. What do you think about this? I'm going to retweet this.
I like that. I mean, we've seen something extremely similar to that before, but
yeah,
I just updated with the new teams. I like it. I'm okay with it.
It's the new logo. It's adding in, of course, Texas A&M, or excuse me, Texas and Oklahoma here. So, baby, you have some breaking news, some very disturbing news.
So I was just scrolling through the Yahoo, and we get this just a year ago. I think that was last June. We coming up on the 1 year anniversary.
I think we're close to it. Yeah, we're right there at it.
That Ocean Gate Titanic submersible
that
was just disastrous. This Ohio man plans to take a 2-person submersible to Titanic depths to show that the industry is safe after the Ocean Gate tragedy.
Why?
I don't want to take that chance.
Why do we do this? Why does this interest these people to do this?
Now, I'm sure that it could be done a lot better, because remember the guy who made the thing and was steering the thing, it was controlled with a PlayStation controller. So yeah, I am sure that there's a way that it can be done a lot safer, but after last year, I don't feel good about the prospects of this.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't like it. Let me get caught up over here on the text line. Cowboy Maloney's text line, 13 locations around the state, online at cowboymaloney's.com. Space Ghost. I had a salamander come out of a water hose when I was drinking it and went into my mouth when I was a little kid. I don't even know where to go with that. Patrick, my liver does not care what kind of water I consume as long as it's H2O, 100%. Possum Nick Joe, if someone would have told me back in the 70s that people would buy bottled water, it would be right there by the Mountain Dew, I never could have believed it. And it would be right there by the Mountain Dew. Oh, I'm the same, Joe. I never would have thought we would have bought water. St. Louis Vic, where do these people think that the bottled water is sourced? My short stint working at Mississippi Bottled Water Company showed me all I needed to know. He says, LOL, ain't nothing like good old spring water. Well, my great aunt had way down in the county in Rankin County. 100%, Vic, I agree. PT per MSU just read the article about the sportscaster in Kansas. That is hilariously cringy. No, it is. At first, I thought he just made a vague comment. After reading his comments that I cannot read on the air, it's pretty bad, right? That was pretty bad. About the sportscaster, high school soccer in Kansas that got canned for a hot mic and comments about soccer moms. Res Dog, talking about Kelley Ford, that goob must not have watched hashtag Shaping Up in the spring game. I don't know that he did. JC, Jake, what is Ole Miss odds at Ameristar for college baseball? 0. JC, 0. So, do you have a favorite in this college baseball odds to win the whole thing?
A favorite or the team that we're picking?
Well,
the team we're picking is not going to be
the favorite.
The favorite.
Tennessee and Texas A&M have the best odds, courtesy of Penn Gaming and Ameristar, 5-1. Arkansas 7.5-1. Kentucky 9-1. LSU 12-1. Wake Forest 12-1. Clemson, Oregon State 13 and 15-1. When you get down in this list, you can get Vanderbilt at 37-1, Mississippi State 45-1, Florida 50-1, Dallas Baptist 90-1. You get Southern Miss at 150-1. And JC is by, he says, weird, Kendall Rogers just picked State to make it to Omaha. I don't think that's weird. I mean, look, it's not out of the question. Trust me, State has a better path to Omaha today than they did prior to the selection committee, where everybody started whining because State probably wasn't going to get, when State did not get one of the host seats. Because I'm telling you, I will see what happens, but this Tennessee team, now you seem to believe, and you could be right, that karma will get this team at some point, right? That the baseball gods will not allow a dog pile celebration to win the whole thing in fur coats, champagne, cigars, and whatever else the hell Tony Vitello gets them to do.
Yeah, it's been happening ever since they started doing this trash. I mean, it's the second time in 3 years they've had the number 1 overall seed. We saw what happened the first time.
You got to do it. It's tough to win. Of course, SEC has won 3 straight. He said you read those in the wrong order. That's the way they came in, JC. Sorry. I said it was weird that the odds for Ole Miss was 0. Then on the second thought, I was making the point that we are back because Kendall Rogers picked us. Kendall Rogers does a great job with college baseball. And if Mississippi State gets back to Omaha, you can officially say they're back. Is that the moment where you say State's back? If they're back in Omaha?
I don't use that phrase for anybody. I got tired of that. Who ruined that? It was Texas. Texas is back 5 years ago, and after that it got ridiculous. We started using this team is back. This team is back.
Next Gen Reb, Tennessee is the number 1 overall seed. They statistically can't win it. Res Dog. Our 2 best hitters can't hit a beach ball right now. We ain't going nowhere. I see what Res Dog is doing here. And unnamed texter. It's just not that hard to get to Omaha. Oh, come on. We can't go down that road. If I look at this, I'm trying to see how many SEC teams statistically can get to Omaha. Tennessee, let's just say Knoxville, Greenville. Let's just say Tennessee runs through that. They would be 1. Alabama is the only team in the Norman/Tallahassee combination that could get in. That would be 2. You got Arkansas and Mississippi State in the Fayetteville-Charlotte regionals. That would be 3 if one of those teams got in. In the Tucson-Chapel Hill, it's LSU. That's the only chance you got. Now, LSU's playing really good baseball. There's no reason they couldn't. So you could get 4 on one side, mathematically. Kentucky is the only one on the Corvallis-Lexington side. Right now, it looks like their toughest road is through Oregon State. South Carolina and Georgia out of the Raleigh and Athens region. One of those teams could make it. That would be 6. Florida is the only team out of the Clemson/Stillwater. 7. And then Texas A&M out of the Santa Barbara College Station. So mathematically, you could get all 8 teams. You could get 8 teams in the College World Series. 8 SEC teams. Then that will increase next year with Oklahoma, the chances of, and Texas coming into the field. JC. Nobody is back for beef, ? Tag team back again, AC/DC back in black. Next Gen Rep says 7 teams. 7. Yes, that was Chris Brooks who said that a long time ago. Let's see, what else did we miss here? I think we about covered it all today, as I'm about out of time. Updated SEC lines per BetOnline _AG. Southern Miss is a 25-point underdog against Kentucky in football for week 1. Georgia, a 13-point favorite over Clemson. Just some notables here. Notre Dame still a 1-point favorite against Texas A&M. LSU a 6.5-point favorite. Neutral site ball game against USC. Alabama's a 32.5-point favorite over Western Kentucky. Remember, ketchup is king, bacon's a delicacy, aloha means goodbye. Hang right here, Rob J. Coming up next. See you tomorrow.